Eagle, former Deputy Mayor, current Rongotai MP for Labour, Andy Foster, Incumbent Mayor of Wellington, and Tory Whanau, former Greens Chief of Staff and first-time candidate for council, I believe. So welcome to all three of you. I understand this is the fifth debate out of 30-something for you, so there's the challenge for me is to try and make it interesting and to ask you some questions that you haven't had before. So I will be asking a bunch of questions. Some of them will be yes-no questions, some of them will be lighter, some of them I hope we can dig into some of the substance. And I will be opening it up to the floor for our subscribers to ask questions as well from this. So as we head towards this election next month, our city faces huge challenges. The Chamber of Commerce recently ran out of adjectives to describe how the city was doing. They said stale, overpriced, tarnished, tired, unsafe, stagnant, frustrated and dull. The Economist Intelligence Unit's Global Livability Index, which measures things including culture and environment, infrastructure and stability, saw Wellington drop from 4 to 50 this year out of 172. A big part of that was due to our COVID border closures, but our fall was steeper than Auckland's there, so it clearly did raise some issues. And we've become something of a donut city as our CBD has become hollowed out due to COVID lockdowns, and the suburbs, good for the suburbs, are flourishing. So there are plenty of challenges for the city and for the next mayor and the leader of the Wellington City Council to tackle. So to kick us off here, I would invite the three of you. We will be able to dig into those. I know those are not your favourite adjectives, Andy. We will be able to dig into those in a second. But I would invite you to start by giving us your 30-second elevator pitch. And we have council reporter Tom Hunt on the timer, ready to make sure you stick to 30 seconds. So Tory Whanau, I invite you to go first.
Kia ora koutou. I'm here to tell you why I am the change that Wellington needs. I'm a connector, I'm a unifier, and I'm a collaborator, which is exactly what the city needs right now. I grew up in Porirua, I went to Victoria University, and I've worked in the film industry, the financial industry, and of course Parliament. So I really want to give back to the city by using my strong leadership skills and my ability to bring people together to get stuff done and give that back. So I'm asking you to please vote Whanau for Mayor this year.
Thank you. How is that on the timer? 30 seconds.
30
well
seconds,
done.
15.
Okay.
Oh, pretty good. Yeah.
Andy Foster, your 30 seconds starts now.
Well, thanks for the absolute privilege of being your mayor. It's been a tough 3 years with pipes, pandemics, protests, politics around the council table, but I've got a council that's actually getting things done. It's getting the big things done. I'll keep on fixing our pipes and building critical infrastructure. I've got a deal out of the government for a second Mount Vic tunnel, a basin reserve, mass rapid transit and an urban development agency to build more housing. And the central city is coming back to life, and I'm going to keep on supporting strongly arts, culture, events, getting those buildings open like Takina, the town hall and the library, and supporting city safety. Sorry? Time. And I'll do lots more too.
Thank you, Andy. And now over to you, Paul Eagle.
Kia ora, my name is Paul Eagle and, sorry, I'll start again. Kia ora, my name is Paul Eagle and I'm asking for your support to elect me as Wellington's next mayor. New bold leadership is needed that puts Wellington first. My vision is to restore the mana of Wellington as the capital city of Aotearoa, New Zealand. The plan is simple, it's to get back to basics and fix our pipes, potholes, parks and playgrounds, deliver a master plan for Wellington that puts housing first and restore Wellington as the arts and events capital. Kia ora.
Kia ora, Paul. Thank you very much. Thank you for your pictures there. So Andy, let's start with you since you're the incumbent. You've spent more than 30 years, or exactly now I guess 30 years on the council. I think that's more than half your life. Getting close to that.
Getting close.
Your term as mayor has been a tough one, I think it's fair to say. You commissioned an independent review that pointed out a number of governance issues on the council, including a lack of direction. Wellington City Council's satisfaction rating has fallen from 40% in 2016 to just 12% today. Do you take that as a sign that your time is up? Do you not take that personally, that it's fallen so precipitously?
How long have you got for the answer?
You can answer fully.
Okay, cool. Look, it's been a very, very challenging time, as I said. We've had the pipes which started breaking, which weren't on anybody's radar screen, started breaking in December. Then we had a global pandemic which turned up in in March of 2020. I've had a very, very challenging council to work with, and I think you could take it as a council of two halves. The first half was really, really challenging. I was faced with a block, a Labor Green block, which said we are going to go one way, and that is not the way that you want to go. And so that was very, very difficult. But we did do that review, and that review has turned the switch, and particularly in the last 18 months, the second half of the triennium, we have got an enormous amount of mahi done. And that's the sort of stuff that our council needed to do and that our city needed to be done. So in terms of pipes, we've responded to the pipe crisis. We've been fixing pipes. You can see the big rising mains that have been being built around our city. You can see the biggest reservoir our city's ever built at Oamaroura that we've been waiting around for 20 years, and we've got it built. We've made decisions on sludge treatment and on the landfill, so critical infrastructure. We also worked closely with the government to get a deal out of them for Let's Get Wellington Moving, so that's the Basin Reserve mass transit and tunnel that I talked about, and agreement which I pitched to the ministers to say we need to actively deliver housing along that corridor. And those are the kind of things that I know Tory is very keen to do as well. And then
To the question, is 30 years not enough?
every day things get changed and we are making progress. The city 30 years ago, I mean, one of the things, for example, I look at, I came down today and Keruru flew right across the front of the car, and the kaka jumping around in the tree this morning, being chased around by.
You didn't hit the Keruru.
No, I didn't.
Okay.
No, I didn't hit the Keruru. The point is that is a transformation that we've happened, and I've driven that transformation for 30 years. Okay. And those are the kind of things that make a difference. So every day I get up to make a difference for the city. That's my commitment to the city. And if I ever feel that I don't want to do that, or I haven't got that fire in my belly to do that, then I'd stop. Okay. But that fire is stronger than ever.
Thank you, Andy. Paul, over the past few months, you have repeatedly broken your promises and the rules, some would say. You said you wouldn't run for the mayoralty, and yet you are, something that will cost the city or the taxpayers of New Zealand $1.2 million if we have to have a by-election. But for now, you're having a bob each way by not resigning your constituency seat while running. At the same time, you put your billboards up early, getting lawyers involved to keep them there, and then you put your hoardings up before they were allowed to, causing the council to go down and take some of them down. What does all of this say about your integrity?
Well, thanks for the question. I mean, the first thing is that those billboards, and it's great to clear this up, those billboards were not up illegally. And it's a shame that wasn't reported because the legal opinion was offered to me, so I didn't seek legal advice. Lawyers and experts from the University of Otago came to me and said, this is the fact. And what I was waiting for is the City Council to say, look, we got it wrong. So everyone should be able to say they got it wrong. So I was waiting for that apology. Second thing to clear up in terms of the hoardings is that I was accused of taking a hoarding. That's been found. That hasn't been reported either. And so it would be good to clarify these for the Wellington public and get this on the record. Now that I've said that, that's good. And the third thing is just around the cost. I assessed that when I was considering running. So I want to be upfront about that. But many, many Wellingtonians from across the political spectrum, former National Cabinet Ministers, my own parliamentary colleagues, Green Party colleagues, New Zealand First colleagues, they said to me, Wellington needs a leader. They need someone who's got experience. They need someone who can go to Parliament and that can put Wellington first. So I've been open with Wellingtonians about that. Thanks for highlighting that to Wellingtonians. The one bit though is that when it said that residents were balking about it, I can't find one. So because I've been up front, and when you're up front around things, people often then say, great, we know what we're considering, but it's also respecting Wellingtonians in terms of saying, ultimately it will be up to the voters. They've now got a choice. There's actually 9 of us. They can look at those 9 and say, who is the candidate that best represents them? I think that I am, and I've been up front with Wellingtonians, and they know that with my experience, having a vision, having a plan, but also having Wellingtonians who said, we want you to run. I mean, it's been an awesome experience for someone to, I mean, it's been an honour for people to say, you've got a safe seat, but we'd really like you. And this has been ongoing for a long, long time. Okay. But what it shows you is that Wellington is going backwards. You mentioned 3 key pieces of work that Wellingtonians know about. And they, you know, when 9 out of 10 Wellingtonians, you sitting in this room, 9 out of 10 of you are unhappy with the decision making of this city council, someone had to run. And here I am.
Okay, thank you. And to you, Tori, you have never served on the council or any council before, yet you're not running for a ward seat, you're shooting straight for the mayoralty. Why are you not running for a ward, and isn't it a bit presumptuous to think you can go straight to the top spot?
I mean, I wouldn't call it presumptuous, I'd call it bold maybe. I actually did think about running for a ward, but what I was worried about is that people might go, oh, you know, maybe she should just be elected to council and not the mayoralty. But my skill set is all about leadership and bringing people together to get things done. So I did decide to take quite a big risk, but that's because I can add most value in that leadership position. It is what I want to do, so I'm very willing to throw on all my cards for that position.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for the succinct answer as well. To all three of you, how are each of you funding your campaigns, and to help voters decide, will you publish the funding sources before the election? Tori, we'll start with you.
I'd say about half of my campaign has been funded by individual donations. I would be very willing to publish those if the ones over the $1,000 threshold were okay with that. And I've funded the rest of my campaign with my savings.
Thank you. Andy?
Pretty much the same answer. I'm the biggest funder. I've got a number of smaller ones, some slightly larger, and again I'd have to do the same thing of asking them whether they were happy to be made public before the election.
Is Peter Jackson on your list this year?
No, he's not.
Okay.
I haven't actually, to be fair, I haven't actually asked him. Okay. And I know obviously they've been very busy. They've been in LA winning some pretty awesome awards, so that's very, very cool. Yeah.
Paul, will you publish your list of funders?
Look, I will, and I'm funding it myself. And if you would like to donate, pauleagle.nz/donate. So I say that every time because I'm open about this.
Okay, good. To the three of you, with hindsight, do you believe that rates should have been higher in the past in Wellington City?
Where do you want to
Who
start?
wants to go first? Paul, you can start first. To get over some of the short-term rate funding issues.
Well, what Wellingtonians have said to me is that they want to see value for their money. And I'm standing on a getting back to basics, because what Wellingtonians have clearly highlighted is that that's not being prioritised. And it's been brought up in the Meet the Candidates meetings. It's around saying we've got a pool of money, but we need to prioritise where that money gets spent. So I think we need to demonstrate that first. I've called for a review of spending, and I will commission that if I'm mayor. But that's what Wellingtonians want to see. They want to know that every dollar that they're currently putting in there is delivering value for money. Wellingtonians can't afford to keep their rates going up, but they will invest, and if there is revenue being looked at as part of the review that I commission, a plan where they can see intergenerational investment clearly laid out, then I think they'll be up for it, but we've got to get back to basics.
Andy?
I guess the challenge with getting back to basics is you've got to tell people who are considering voting for you what it is that you don't consider basics. In other words, what is going to go out the window. So in terms of the investment that we are making, we're making really serious investment in that core infrastructure. So when Paul was on the council, the 2015 LTP was $1.6 billion was spent on water over the 10 years. Today it is $2.7 billion. So we've really ramped up the investment, and that's in direct response to the infrastructure issues we've got. So we've got a very ambitious plan. It does cost money. If you look back in time, well, there wasn't really any signal there was a problem with that infrastructure. And I think that, no, there wasn't, Paul.
2009.
No, there wasn't.
There was an article written, I've got it.
Yeah, well, one article doesn't make a real issue.
Well, you were on council, I wasn't.
Yeah. Let's move on.
So my point is that we have stepped up to the plate, and we are getting the job done.
Tori, what do you think about rates?
I think, yeah, possibly, and I think it would have been probably less of a shock with the increase, but I mean, it's a shame, you know, increases need to happen to pay for some of the big challenges that Wellington are going through, and I fully respect that, and I fully respect how people are feeling the pinch, and they are wanting to see, ensure that the money is being spent effectively, and it should be. I also think that's why it's really important to ensure that we have that really close relationship with government to see where they can step in and fund some of our bigger projects where possible as well, like public transport, Three Waters and so forth. So I think that'll be really helpful and help ease some of the burden.
Okay, thank you. I think we can all agree that housing is probably the biggest issue facing Wellington City now, and that Wellington needs more houses. The real question is how to do that, and it's not just this binary character versus densification debate as is often said to be. So just yes or no to each of you. Should 6-storey buildings be allowed within 15 minutes walking distance of Johnsonville Station, for example?
I'm going to yes, I'm going to say yes to that. So 6 minutes in terms of Johnsonville.
15 minutes. 6-storey buildings within the 15-minute walking
I'm
catchment.
going to say no to that. Sorry, yep.
No?
I thought we'd set it at 10, but
Yes,
10. So I mean, the government's national policy statement says we have to have within walking distance of the major metropolitan centres. Johnsonville is one of those, and we've complied with that. So the answer is yes.
For 15?
No, the answer is yes to complying with the government's. 10 is what we've got at the moment.
Yes,
And
15 is the norm. Yep.
Well, okay, and if that comes through the hearings process, then that's what comes through the hearings process.
Okay.
Yeah.
Tori?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Tori, if there were plans to build a 3-storey townhouse on the section next to you, would you object?
No, I wouldn't object, as long as, I think when it comes to townhouses, as long as they're designed well and they have that kind of longevity about them, you know, I'm certainly very comfortable with that.
Okay. Andy?
Well, that's what's going to be allowed now, so you won't have the chance to object, and so no.
No?
Yes, I mean, on both sides of my home, there's space there, but I'm thinking of others where
Yes,
there's
you
not.
would object?
No, I wouldn't object.
Oh, okay. All right, good. On transport, are you committed to funding and building all 166 kilometres of the Pāneke-Pōneke cycleway network? Yes or no?
No, because as part of my vision, I've determined that a better mechanism than just each cycleway includes a court case at the end of it. And what I'm saying is that's unacceptable. Wellingtonians have said there must be a better way than saying that we go to court every time there's a cycleway design put in front of them. And that's why I'm saying no, because a better way is to come up with a neighbourhood plan. Every community I've gone to, they want to have input into designing not only the streetscape, but the business, the retail and the housing space. If we got that plan together and they said, yes, a cycleway is part of a bigger plan, then it may be prioritised by the community. I'm not prepared to take ratepayers' money back and give it to lawyers to take yet another cycleway to court. There's a better way to do it. Secondly on that, as the construction guys who are actually doing it tell me it can't be done within the time frame. The councillors on there said it was an aspirational target. The money's maybe fully allocated, but it just can't be done within the time frame anyway. So I want to be upfront and truthful to Wellingtonians and tell them that and say there is a better way to deliver not only your cycleway, but your housing, your business, your retail and your town centre. And that's what Wellingtonians tell me.
Okay. Andy, yes or no to Pāneke-Pōneke?
Well, that wasn't a quick yes or no. So
Yeah.
yeah. Look, I mean,
We do. Long answer before.
Let him talk.
We do need a coherent cycleway plan across the whole city, and it's a case of how we deliver it and how long it takes to deliver it. And so where I think we are in agreement is that we need to make sure we're doing it with the community, not to the community. And I think the pace of some of those transitional cycleways is probably too fast, and we need to work with people and try and find some compromise. And I'm confident that we can do that.
Too fast for whom? Not for the cyclists.
Oh, yes, too fast for some, not too slow for others. But you know, we're right. We don't want to end up in court with some of these things, and if we can avoid that, sometimes going to try and going fast makes it slower. I mean, look at Shelley Bay as a classic example.
Can't believe you brought up Shelley
Yeah.
Bay, Andy.
But yes or no?
Tori, yes or no on Pāneke-Pōneke?
Yes, I'm fully committed, and I think there really needs to be a lot of work done in terms of bringing the community on that journey as well, and that is the role of Mayor.
Right.
The reality is climate change is happening. We need to build a climate resilient city. We need to provide safe options for everyone to get across our city, which includes cycling, buses, walking and cars.
That's right.
I don't want to stop progress.
Okay, all right. Do you support the 3 waters reforms? Yes or no, Tori?
Yes, I do.
Not as they stand.
Yes.
Okay, we can continue talking about that a bit later, I think. Also, a yes or no, do you think it's reasonable that candidates for councils are asked about their affiliations with groups like Voices for Freedom and other anti-mandate or conspiracy theory groups?
Yes.
Yeah, look, if people want to know about that, I think they should be asked and they should answer.
Yep.
Yes, it's about being transparent.
Okay, yeah, great. In terms of the arts, is it right for the council to allocate $200,000 for a new frontage for Circa while there is sewage running through the streets on many days? I mean, this is a question about arts funding versus infrastructure funding. How do you balance that?
Well, it's a question about priorities, Wellingtonians have clearly said we want to restore Wellington as the arts capital. So for me, it fits into being a core as for this city. And so for me, the arts sector have clearly come out and said, look, we could be doing a whole lot more. Again, it's back to priorities. If we are going to be the arts and events capital, then things like arts venues should be allocated the funding. In fact, there needs to be a much better plan around venues. Artists say to me it's too expensive to hire them. There's obviously an asset issue in terms of their maintenance. We've done some, but for me, I'd like to see an arts precinct through from the embassy right through where the circa is into the town hall and look at transforming that part of Wellington. And so it's a core funding priority for me.
Okay, Andy?
I think people need to know that the Circa investment in part is trying to unlock other investments. So if we give Circa a certain amount of money, then hopefully they'll get a lot more money. It's sort of 2-for-1 arrangement from lotteries. So this is about trying to make sure that that cornerstone of our arts and culture sector actually thrives, and that's what we want to do. And the kind of precinct that Paul's talking about, the reality is it's already there, and it's about completing that. So for example, we're just about to open the Hannah, we've just opened the St James, the town hall will come back soon, and then we'll have the Takina coming as well. So all of those make for a precinct. And the other thing, of course, a great statement for the arts and culture capital is we will have the National School of Music. So we've approved a new building there on the Michael Fowler Centre car park for the National School of Music. So our arts and culture sector, I'm really right behind it, and it's going to come back stronger and stronger. And the other thing is just to say, one of the things I did support was the establishment of both the Wellington Opera Company and the Capital Theatre Trust, which of course the Capital Theatre Trust has just put on Les Miserables. And that has brought so much life back into Courtenay Place, having that kind of activity. 23,000 people went to that show over the last 17 days. That is awesome. So that's what supporting an arts and culture capital is all about.
Okay. Tori, how do you balance the nice to haves versus the must haves?
Yeah, of course. Well, we do want to restore ourselves as the arts capital of Aotearoa, and to do that we need more venues. We need more places for our own artists as well as international artists to be able to perform and for people to enjoy the arts. That includes restoring some of them. So I am supportive of that. And actually when you look at the cost, it's quite low in comparison to other projects, and this is why I'll keep advocating for government funding. But look, it's an important, infrastructure is incredibly important, but so is the life of our city and the vibrancy of our city.
Yep.
Okay. So we here in Wellington operate on an STV, single transferable vote system. I assume all of you will be marking yourselves as number 1. I want to know, who will you be putting as number 2? Paul?
Well, I'm on record now to say Tory, so it'll be Paul Eagle 1 and Tory Whanau 2.
Andy?
I actually think I'll probably only put 1, to be honest.
Really?
I did say if you were forcing me to have a second choice, I'd go for Tory. Yep.
Tori?
Thank you. This is quite hard because I actually respect both Andy and Paul, and I've really enjoyed this process, but I also think it's really cool that we have 2 Māori running for mayor, and I want to celebrate that by giving Paul my number 2.
Okay, thank you. Tori, who would you pick as your deputy and why?
Look, if it was the current council, I think I would pick someone like Jenny Condi. She's got a really strong policy mind, she's very neutral, and I think that would be really helpful in terms of building our team. With the new council, I couldn't tell you that because it depends on who we elect, and it would be about me identifying, well, where are my gaps as a leader, and who's best to help corral the team together. It could be anybody.
Okay. Andy?
If I was giving Tori advice, because she'd be coming in new, I would get somebody who's got that experience there already, so I'd certainly say that. Yep. For me, loyalty is really, really important, and Sarah Free is my deputy mayor, and I'll be backing Sarah 100%.
And for me, yeah, I would have to see how the whole thing settled on Saturday the 8th of October, because you get some dynamics that you can plan for. What I've learnt with STV and with local government is you just never know. And I know that and then it's a process of showing your leadership as the mayor and working out portfolios, a governance structure, things like that, and then being able to get that unity that Wellingtonians so demand. They want unity, and that starts from day one.
So yeah, you raised the idea of unity. How would you, as the mayor, unify this council, which has obviously suffered from some disunity over the past 3 years?
Well, it's about, so first of all, in terms of the mayor, that's the city leader. And so you would make it clear, I've got a vision, I've got a plan. So those are 2 important ingredient so other candidates standing for council now can see what I'm about. Many have asked me, they've sat me down and said, what do you mean about the mana, restoring the mana? I said, the prestige that we are the only capital city in this country, and so let's live up to that. And so Wellington, that resonates with them, and others want to pick apart some of the plan that I have, which is why we're questioning some of the things today, because they want to know more. So they would know what I stand for, but also it's about me getting to know them, their strengths, their personalities, what they've campaigned on, and sitting down from day one, not day two. Wellingtonians want action straight away. I mean, they're going to want results of this, that, and the other thing Monday morning. The Don Post is going to want to run something immediately.
Yes.
But they're going to want to see a governance structure. They want to see unity, but not just the Don Post. We owe it to Wellingtonians to do this. So it's a process. I've had people already who are experts with strengths-based training, personality training, who will help. There's no cost there, because the cost is to the city if we don't get this right.
Okay. Andy?
Yeah, well, I mean, obviously it's going to start by depending on who gets elected. The last council I was faced with a Labour Green bloc, which was the majority, who didn't want to do the things which I wanted to do. I did sit down with every one of them over the space of the first couple of days, and then was faced with hey, we've got the majority and this is what we're going to do. So that wasn't particularly easy. So it was working really, really hard with them to try and get them across the line and switch the narrative. And we did do that ultimately, but it was hard work. I think there are a lot of really great prospective new councillors who are standing, and I hope that essentially we get people who are really focused on what's best for Wellington and not political parties and political agendas. And that will make life a whole lot easier, I've got to say. But I've worked really, really hard with a difficult group of people to get an enormous amount done, and I think I can hand on heart say what we achieved over the last 3 years, even with all the raru, was more than the last 3 councils did in spades. So if that's a measure of success, then we succeeded, even though it was tough.
Tori, how would you unify the council?
I think respect, relationship building and compromise are incredibly important things to have. And this was exactly my role at Parliament. So on one side I had to get our Green Party MPs as well as our staff to work towards a vision together and stick to that for 3 years. At the same time I had to work with the Labour Party and New Zealand First. Couldn't be more different in getting to a compromise to deliver the best policies on behalf of our parties. So what I would do with council is essentially the same thing, is bringing our councillors together but also collaborating with the executive and our council, because they are the experts at implementation and have some really valuable advice, and how do we bring both sides together to work towards that common vision.
Great, thank you. So before we open up to the floor, I have a few lighter questions to ask each of you. Tori, what's your happy place in Wellington?
I like walking my dog Teddy down to Orange Parade Beach.
Okay. Andy?
Oh, look, I'd probably go for a walk along the Skyline or Zealandia.
I like my 6 a.m. F45. It's a bit of a cultist gym, but I'll tell you what, it gets you moving first thing.
Okay, I don't even know what that is.
It sounds like a fighter plane.
It does.
You're always welcome to join me as a fellow Island Bay resident.
I think I'll dispatch Tom Hunt to that assignment.
Tom, yes.
Paul, what's your karaoke song?
What's my karaoke song? Ooh.
Do you need to think about that?
Yeah.
Andy?
I probably need to think about that too.
In fact, the last song I sang was Poor Year, and it was, we had an away day retreat, caucus meeting in New Plymouth, and yeah, some of us were challenged to sing Poor Year better because Pātea was down the road.
Okay. Andy? Not a karaoke fan?
No, actually, I enjoy karaoke. I don't do it very often. In fact, the last time we had a good karaoke was with the Indonesian ambassador and a whole lot of the ambassadors, and we had a fantastic night. We had a great time. So put almost anything in front of me and I'll give it a go.
Okay. Tori?
Yep.
I'm just going to steal Paul's answer because I'm a descendant of the Poye Taranaki
I'm
group.
so disappointed in you lot.
But so I think I'd take that too.
Okay. Mine, for the record, is Gangster's Paradise.
Nice.
Okay.
Well, we'll have to give it a go. Right?
Okay. If you could invite any 4 people, living or dead, to dinner, who would you invite?
Oh man, I feel like I need a minute for that.
Oh yeah, that'd take a little bit of thinking.
Okay, you can think about that. I'll skip to the next one and we'll come back to that one. Can you each give each other a compliment?
Yeah.
Tori.
Very easy.
Tori, start with you.
Yeah, no, Andy, I actually hugely respect the hard mahi that you've put into the city for the last for the wee while, and I've really gotten to know you, and I really like you. And Paul, we've known each other at Parliament a long time, and again, we have a really great relationship, and I like you too.
Andy?
Look, I've only met Tori relatively recently, but she's very bubbly, very engaging, and so I enjoy her company. Paul, we've had a...
Compliment, Andy.
I'm trying to find...
Just one thing.
One thing.
One thing.
Look,
I've got a majority of 19. I've got a majority of 19,207, and they say nice things. So.
I'm stumped there. Look,
Tom can write a story about that.
I have enjoyed being at the Phoenix with Paul from time to time.
I
talking football.
Okay.
Yeah, I knew you could do it.
Paul?
Well, look, I like Andy's heart. If there's ever someone who's gone to a meeting that whips out a pad and pen and writes down screeds of stuff, it's Andy. So you are, you're always consistent at getting that information down. Tori, she presents a new vibe and actually just sort of balances out some of the campaign, but she's just great to be around.
Great, well done. I knew you could do it. Here we go. And so on that happy note, we'll come back later to your dinner guests. I would invite our subscribers to ask their questions of the candidates. Mr. Rancho, just one second, please. We need a microphone.
No, it's all right.
No, we need the microphone for the people who are watching at home.
I've been reading the internet and about deaths. And Wellington's debt is over $1 billion. Well, yeah, we've got problems with the pipes and crime and housing. Well, you have to raise the rates right up. And like for Auckland's debt...
Sorry, what's your question?
The question is, what is... First, I'll give you the substance that Auckland's debt is $16 billion and Phil Goff has sold off a lot of our assets and reserves. What is the three of you? What is your opinion of Phil Goff? Should he get a knighthood straight away? Should he get
okay.
Should he get that job over in America as ambassador?
Should Phil Goff get a knighthood?
16 billion debt in Auckland.
So I'll answer the question about a knighthood.
Yeah.
I've always been a bit funny about knighthoods anyway, but look, if he wants to go overseas and is set up for a role, I think that's cool as well. He'll do a good role at promoting New Zealand.
Okay. Yeah. Andy?
Yeah.
Yeah, look, I've had the pleasure of working with Phil and a lot of the other mayors. We have regular calls with a lot of the major metropolitan mayors and talking about issues. So, but thankfully, it's not my role to decide who gets knighthoods and who goes overseas. I must admit, some of the appointments of politicians to go overseas are rather interesting.
Okay.
My statement is on competence.
Okay.
Oh, well, that wasn't what you asked.
Let's try to focus more on Wellington and talk about Wellington's things. Demetrius, do you have a question here?
Oh, I was going to do that.
Oh, sorry to silence you.
Hi, Demetrius.
I'd like you to share with us your vision for transport in Wellington. And in answering that, whether you think Let's Get Wellington Moving is on track, and maybe even give them a score out of 10. Thank you.
Is Let's Get Wellington Moving on track, and what score out of 10 would you give it? We won't cover, your transport policies are all on your website, so we'll try and keep it moving.
I'm a huge supporter of Let's Get Wellington Moving. I'd like it to move a lot faster and would like to utilise something like the Urban Development Act to really reduce the time where possible. But it's taken a long time, but I feel it sounds like it's getting on track.
Andy?
Yeah, well, exactly. I think by next year you'll start seeing orange cones all over the place, and there's a decade of transformation which is coming. Whether it's on track or on wheels, we'll see in terms of the mass transit. And we've got government commitment to a very significant investment in our city, and that includes using the Urban Development Act with working with KO and private developers to drive housing development along that corridor. So it's close to walking. People are close to services. We're more sustainable that way as well.
Paul?
And for me, to go back to that first question about cycleways, an integrated transport plan is me. We've had people who want bus reliability to improve, they want a workforce strategy and there to get more bus drivers, those who value our footpaths, you know, they want to be included in the conversation despite not being part of the transport triangle or a priority. The integration of it is key. I've talked about those neighbourhood plans, would say if different communities prioritise different things on the transport triangle that the council has developed, then that should be so. In terms of Let's Get Wellington Moving, it's highly controversial in terms of not getting anything moving. So what I'd like to do is see spades in the ground. I think the grade separation project could be hurried along and we could put spades in there. The other aspect is building homes. The promise came, or is part of the promise, is that this focus on the transport aspect is meant to complement new homes. I'm not seeing evidence of that, so part of my plan is to prioritise housing and get the urban development, so that's homes, business and retail, back on the agenda. It can't just be the transport stuff only. Right, Andy, I'm answering Demetrius. So that's my answer. And I don't think the brand helps. I think people are saying, you know, call it something else just for the sake of saying if we are going to get moving, then show us a spade in the ground.
Okay, we have a question here, Rhonda. Yeah.
I'm interested in asking you each, from your experience in your public role, when you reflect back, could you choose a particularly challenging situation that you now wish you had done differently?
Great question. A challenging situation you wish you'd done differently.
Oh, yeah.
Paul?
I'll tell you something. I mean, we are Island Bay residents and we have a cycleway, which is the symbol of division. And if I had my way, I would have done it differently. And what's different is using a global concept around 15-minute neighbourhoods and looking at a neighbourhood plan to structure in that cycleway with a playground. I've got a 7-year-old and I take him down to Shoreland Park, which is the park at the end of the parade there by the beach. And it was amazing when that opened. Well done, council. Hundreds of families there. But yet only 10 metres that way is New Zealand's most divisive cycleway.
What
and I
part
thought,
did you play?
Yeah.
What part did you play?
Well, I was the local councillor at the time, and I think what I would have stood up for is saying, hold, let's get a process, a better process to integrating this into all of the neighbourhood's needs. So we could talk business, playgrounds, cycleways, road network, street lights, crime, whatever my community, my neighbourhood deemed a priority and for the future. And I think we would have got a much different result. So I regret that not happening.
Andy, what do you wish you'd done differently?
Probably pushed harder on some things, and the one I'd probably say is there was a development proposal put up by Centreport to do development of the Harbour Quays area, and a lot of the central city businesses said we don't like this with the businesses, you know, drawing out life from the central city, and I agree with them, and I think if we pushed harder, maybe there's a chance that it wouldn't happen. I doubt it. They'll probably still have bulldozed ahead. Of course, the unfortunate thing is that in the Kokua earthquake, pretty well all of that development has come unstuck. So could we have avoided that? Probably not, but it could have pushed harder on it, I suppose.
And Tori?
I suppose my background's a bit different in the sense that I haven't been a public figure at all. I suppose if I think about my experience as Chief of Staff, I wish I would have used my influence more to push harder on climate action and perhaps gaining a bit more, or gaining a few more wins and funding for Wellington City in particular.
Thank you. David, in the back there.
Kia ora tātou. A little bit of a Kuri question. New Zealand is the best country in the world. Wellington's the best city. But how would you put New Zealand on the international stage? I know it's not Wellington focused, but it is.
Mm-hmm. Well, how would you put Wellington, New Zealand on the international stage? Tori, do you want to start with that?
Yeah, like one idea. So I'm actually a marketer by trade, and I'll certainly be pulling on that experience and investing some resource there. I think something that I'd be quite keen to do is building a group to really negotiate with, say, international festivals, international sports teams, to bring that tourism back to our city and making us the #1 location, which is also why we need more venues. And I think so tourism, international tourism, might be a good way to do that.
I think on top of that, there's the relationships we have with our various sister cities. We've got 10 sister city relationships. Some of those we're trying to deepen at the moment. One particular opportunity we've got is with Seoul, and they, the technology that they have that we could lever off is enormous, and you would know that. And I think the other thing is we've got 50 heads of mission here, 50 embassies, and I'm trying to keep on working with them to try and bring new things to the city. So an example of that is the upcoming Lumino festival. So what I said to them is, hey, can you do things which showcase your culture, your arts, your your food, etc. And so we have all of that. So we have a festival, which is that international festival on our waterfront. So that's coming up soon. We would have had it already had it not been for COVID cancellation. So there's a lot that we can do, and just building some of those. We've got a fantastically diverse community, and one of my friends is over in Africa at the moment, saying, look, what can we do as a city in relation to the African community as well, and maybe that's helping people to go and do voluntary work in the African communities as well, that kind of thing.
Paul, how would you put Wellington on the international stage?
Yeah, when I talked about restoring the mana of Wellington as the capital city, what that reminds me of, and I had and some of you will remember when we had Lord of the Rings and that wonderful moment along Courtenay Place with the red carpet, that put Wellington on the global, the world map. And I'm mindful that I represent the people of the Miramar Peninsula now, and we've got the film sector there. And I'd really like us not to forget them. And I feel we could do more there. So it's part of the restoring Wellington as the arts capital. But getting that screen industry, we will lose it to Auckland, we will lose it globally, our incentives. So working harder with central government, because globally it's set at a certain rate in terms of what we're expected to in terms of incentivising. It's called a grant. That's messy language. It's not really. I think we could do a lot better. If we lose that, then we've lost our... we're already running there. Let's not lose it. Let's not get us onto... let's not get us out of... we don't want to get off the world stage by losing that. So that would be the first thing. The second would be around talent attraction, saying how do we get talented people that would go hand in hand, and that would be a whole... an integrated strategy, marketing strategy that repositions Wellington.
It's a good point. We're actually doing exactly that at the moment, so it's a good point.
Brilliant. Yes, Sarah. Yeah.
What I'm asking about is on the 27th of September 2017, Paul, you actually put forward the proposal backed by the deputy mayor under the previous mayor to actually make those changes to Shelley Bay. Yep. And we've had a lot of litigation since then. It's been almost 5 years on the 27th of September this year, so there's been litigation regarding different groups, including myself, having a caveat over it from the following year, the 14th of February 2018, to protect that the Shelley Bay, and also, so what I want to know, if you become the mayor, would you actually go ahead with what you actually proposed in that in 2017? Because it is actually an iconic area, not just for Wellingtonians, but it's actually iconic. Like this morning I came across the harbour, and it's as significant as actually Bastion Point. So it's not actually recognised like that. It's significant as a park, as significant as Bastion Point for all Wellingtonians. Wellingtonians involve people who live in Eastbourne, Petone, Lower Hutt, the Western Hills, the Eastern Hills, and coming right round. It's not ownership so by the... The question is that he actually... Is he going to carry, if he gets in an integral master plan for Shelley Bay that was passed and seconded by Councillor Day, is going to be processed if you were to become mayor? Because it is, of course, a lot of antagonistic in Wellington and enormous expense to different people
Right, Paul, let's get
financially.
Let's get an answer on that.
Well, look, thanks for the question. And look, I haven't been on council for 5 years, and it's been disappointing. It's been used as a political football, to say the least. That master plan was developed as part of a Motu Kairangi, which is the eastern suburbs, a full master plan. There's a draft there sitting there. Nothing's been done since I left the council on there, but there could have been something done that looked at Shelley Bay, Mount Crawford, Watts Peninsula, and in fact the whole eastern suburbs peninsula. That would have been superseded by now in terms of I haven't been there, but council have made subsequent decisions on the 1/9 of the council land, that tiny wee bit of land. It's privately owned by a developer, or by the iwi in partnership with the developer, and he intends to give most of it back to those people. He does, because I've checked. And so, yeah, so I'm not, so I'm fully committed to a master plan for the eastern suburbs. In fact, it's...
No, I'm not talking about the eastern suburbs.
About
Okay,
Shelley Bay. But it's
Yeah.
been superseded. So I haven't been on council for 5 years.
So we have it like Stanley Point in Vancouver.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if you're
Oh.
aware of
Okay.
that. So
No.
we don't have any of those 200 houses placed on
Sure.
the far side of it as well.
But Watts Peninsula could be that in terms of the land adjacent up top. And I know, talking to the regional council, is that there is discussion about making that a regional park, our first city regional park, right there. But nothing's been done there either. But I'd certainly advocate for it.
Okay, thank you so much for all of your questions.
Can I answer that question too?
Briefly, yes.
Yeah. Look, Sarah, thanks for that. So the plan hasn't been superseded, it's been consented. The land has been, the council has now confirmed the sale of the land that Paul moved.
The recommendation
No,
is.
no,
that doesn't
Paul,
stand.
what you moved, the sale of that land, that has been sold now. And that
The
development,
1/9 of the land.
Paul, that development will go ahead
Indeed.
unless,
Tell the
Paul,
truth.
I am telling 100% the truth, you're not.
Tell the truth.
So the
Paul, let Andy
that will
speak,
go
please.
ahead.
You spoke.
The other, and I guess the
He's
question
off
for
track.
me,
We're talking
the
about-
question for me is Paul's talking about neighbourhood plans, but in that particular situation, the council 3 times made decisions which knowingly trampled all over the aspirations of the Miramar community, and I just can't reconcile those things. And the other bit is in terms of Motumotukarangi, the top of the land, that is still sitting there with Lynn's. Paul has been asked to advocate for that because I know, because I've been told by my deputy, my deputy about that, and hasn't done it.
This is unfair. I mean,
No, I'm just giving you the
unfair.
facts.
I'm going to
You're
wrap
just
this
trying to
up
change
now.
It's unfair.
We have
Yeah.
an
Been
audience
superseded.
It hasn't.
nationwide that is following this
It
has.
debate
I'll
on
find it
our
and
live
present
stream
it.
at home. So we're going to bring the live stream to an end now. We'll, we've hit 45 minutes. We'll be able to keep
You don't,
discussing
so.
these issues in here in our Wellington studio. Our subscribers, you're welcome to come and ask questions directly of the mayoral candidates. Thank you to everybody who's tuned in from around the Motu today. Thank you, Tory Whanau, Andy Foster, Paul Eagle for coming in and being so forthright in your answers. We look forward to covering the rest of the campaign very fulsomely over the next 6 weeks, and thank you to everybody who's here.
Thank you.